Now we're going to talk about something that just makes our lives a little easier, and that's being able to clean up our code. We've got all this script data that we've made, and it's mixed in with HTML and some PHP, and we really want to be able to keep things clean and neat so that we can update them and not have to worry about finding the right parts. To do this, we can load a file with JavaScript in it instead of actually calling the JavaScript in the page. So we're going to go and create a JS file. I've named mine myscript.js, and you can create it just like you've done these others. And currently it's empty. But I'm going to take some of our stuff, like our function and these variables, and I'm going to copy them into this file. And then I'm going to save it. Now our function is no longer in the page. I'm also going to take out our timeout since we've already used that. But we're still trying to call it even though it's not in the page. So we're going to have to add it, and we'll add it by adding our document that we just had. We usually add JavaScript files in the head. So we'll go up here in our head tags and we'll say script type equals text / JavaScript source equals, and we'll put a name of our file. In this case, we named it myscript.js. We'll close that and close the script. Now we're going to save this and load our page. We'll go back to lessons index 2. And we've got this running. But you can see that we have welcome from Creative Online School and new value instead of our pages. That's because our function is still executing. That's because even though we didn't have it in the page, we loaded it through a file. So it's still usable, even though it's not here directly, and we can get things a lot shorter. It's much easier to just put your function references in your HTML instead of having to put the functions themselves. Now we loaded our own file, which is located in the same directory as our index2 file. However, you can load a file from anywhere, even over the internet. It's possible to use scripts that other people have written if you know where they are and you have their permission. And that allows you to use their functions and other pre-made things. So next we're going to talk about something that you often have to do in a form. You don't want all the fields to display, you only want some of them to display if certain conditions are true. We're going to do that with a radio button real quick so that you can see how it's done. I'm just going to paste this in here. And we've got a little text asking a question. We've made some radio buttons, and we're calling an onClick event that calls a function called JavaScript yes/no check. Now we haven't shown you this yet, but I'll show you that in a moment. Other than that, it's just a regular checkbox. And then we have our div here, which we're going to display as none initially, but if they check yes or no, then it'll change from visible to invisible. So we're going to go back into our JavaScript file, and you can see that I've added this function for yes/no check. And all it does is say, if document.getElementById yes check is checked, then do this, and we'll set it equal to none. Else, do this and set it equal to block. It's pretty simple, and it's using all of the things we've learned already. So let's watch it in action. We reload the page. Now you can see a question. Are you learning from our videos? If you say yes, then that's great. But if you say no, then it's going to pop up a question. If no, please explain. And if you set yes again, it'll disappear. Being able to pop up new questions based on the user's input is very useful and one of the best things you can do with JavaScript. So now that we've got a pretty good looking form going, we want to worry about validation. Currently we have values, but if I hit submit, it doesn't require me to input anything. It basically just refreshes the page. If I want to make sure they put in a value, how would I do that? Well, let's show you. First, we're going to go into our script here, and we don't really need these values to change anymore. So instead, I'm going to paste over them. And we've got a little function here. It's called validate form. And basically it creates a variable called name, and then it pulls the name field out of the form and looks at if it has a value. If that value is equal to empty, then it sends an alert. And then it prevents your submission. If the value has one, then it's fine. Now, to make this work, we're going to have to give our form a name. So we're going to call it form1. ID equals form1. That way, when we get element by ID form1, it knows which form we're talking about. So if I save this, and let's let it load, we can now submit and get a warning. Name cannot be left blank. So now we have a nice little form going. It uses PHP to create it, and it says hello from creativeonlineschool.com. It asks for your name, what lessons you might want to learn, and if you're learning anything or not. And it checks if you actually submit anything or not. You can see that this is now becoming a real useful web page because of all the PHP and JavaScript. That's it for this lesson. We'll continue on with some other lessons. And as always, this and other lessons can be found at creativeonlineschool.com.